Hello everyone, welcome. It's Alexandra. My today's tutorial is for the Wonderland Crafts design team, and I would like to show you how I made these cards. There is a cute label on the side. I have added some brads to hold the front pocket. And since it's a pocket, you can actually put a card inside of it. Maybe a gift card, maybe another tag that you have created, but I thought it could be fun to have a card in there. Let me quickly walk you through the things that you're going to need for creating this card. I am going to use a few dies from Wonderland Crafts. The first one I have here, it only misses one part, the third pocket, and the die is called 3 pockets. So I'm going to use the larger one in the set and the middle one. You could use the die that cuts out the tab, but since I'm going to use a piece of fabric for the tab, I didn't use the die. That's the first one. Then the second one that I'm going to use is this sun that comes from the set, which is called Sun Smiles. Another die that I'm going to use comes from the set, which is called 3 Clouds, and I have here the smallest one. It's very cute and super tiny. I'm also going to use a clear stamp set, which is called a Pocket Full, and it, as a matter of fact, coordinates with the 3 pockets die if you want to add some more details to your die cuts, like the stitching that you can see here. That also comes in 3 sizes to match the sizes of the pocket dies that you have in a set. I also like these stamps right here. And for my today's card, I am actually going to use only the smaller size of the sentiments. I have already pre-stamped some of them here, and I'm going to get back to these tabs a little bit later. I'm also going to use a stencil. Don't mention the tape that I have here. I have already prepared it for our today's tutorial, but the stencil set comes from a set of 2 stencils, which is called Wonderland Stencil Set, and I am going to use the flowers that you can see here at the bottom row. I'm also going to need some inks, and I chose to use inks in the yellow and the green color, and I'm using Distress inks, peeled paint, and fossilized amber are the ones that I'm going to use. Archival ink I used for stamping the sentiment on fabric. I'm also going to use some gel pens. I use them for adding accents. Here I have a tiny accent on the sun, and I have also used the pens in gold and green to add some more details to the stenciled flowers. And I have also added the frame to my card using gold gel pens. You're also going to need a sheet of cardstock. I'm using the letter size cardstock, which is 8.5 by 11, and I cut it to several pieces. This one measures 5.5 by 8.5, and it is folded in half so that my card base measures 5.5 by 4.25. 2 of these pieces measure 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. One of the pieces will go to the back of the card just to reinforce it a little bit more, and the other one will go to the front, and this will actually be the piece that we will layer all the rest of our elements onto. I think we're ready to begin now. Let me glue the white piece of cardstock to the back of the card base. Now I will work on this piece right here, and I will set my card base aside for now. I'm going to sketch the frame before I keep on going. I will set this aside to dry, and we will work on the jeans pockets. I had a piece of old jeans that I decided to use for my card, and after I ironed it, I glued it down to a piece of thin printing paper. For gluing it down to paper, I used glue stick. I applied the glue stick onto the paper sheet generously, and then layered the fabric on top. And right after that, I went to my ironing board and ironed the whole piece. It helps the glue to stick down better to the fabric, and I have been doing it for some time. It sticks quite well. Of course, you can peel it off, but for our today's purposes, the strength of the glue stick will be fine. And also, if you see that once you die cut all of your pieces later on, they peel off on the sides, just use some wet glue and adhere those edges back down. Besides the fact that this way it will be way easier for you to work with the fabric, it will also be easy to die cut it using your die cutting machine and the dies that we're going to use. So I am going to cut a little piece off of the larger piece that I have prepared right here, and I will just see how big the piece will have to be. I will use my scissors to trim it down, and then I will take all of this to my die cutting machine and get back to you once I have the pockets ready to be used. I have 2 of the pockets die cut, and this is how they look. The back is paper and the front is some jeans fabric. As you can see on my cards, I don't have these flaps. My pockets don't have flaps because it will be too bulky if you keep them on. I'm going to trim off the flaps. If you have a sewing machine, that could be great, because next I'm going to use the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch around the edges of the smaller pocket all around, also attaching the little tag on the side that I have pre-stamped using the black archival ink, the tiny stamps from this set, and a piece of muslin which I folded in half and glued it along this edge just so that it's easier for me to stamp on it. I'm going to apply a bit of the glue to the back of this pocket, and I will glue the label there on the side. Now I can stitch all around this pocket. On the larger pocket, I'm going to stitch only along the top. If you don't have the sewing machine, that is also fine. Just make sure that you try to peel the fabric off the paper in the corners, and if you can do that, just add more of the wet glue in there and make sure that both the paper and the fabric stay tightly adhered one to another. And here we go, the stitching is done. I pull the threads to the back of each one of the pockets, tie double knots, and trim off the excess. To a smaller pocket that I'm going to glue down on top of the larger one, I want to add little brads in the corners. I'm going to mark the places for each one of those breads using a gel pen, and I will use my tiniest hole punch, which is about 1/16 of an inch, and punch out those holes. That's how it looks in the back. Now I'm going to put the breads in there. Here we go. Just make sure that none of the bread's prongs is sticking out from the edges. We will get back to our paper layer with the frame that we have sketched in the very beginning. And I'm going to use the stencil now to know where exactly I need my flowers to be. I will take the pocket that will be later on stitched down or glued down to the cardstock piece, and I'm going to center it on top of the paper. I think I will want it to be somewhere here, I guess. I will also need a pencil, and now when I have the placement for my pocket, and that's where I want it to be once the card is done, I will move it towards the bottom about 1/4 of an inch. And then I will draw a line, a super faint line with the pencil. Just like that. You can barely see the line. And that line will help me to align the flowers when I stencil them. I know that the pocket is not wide enough to accommodate all the flowers that I have in the bottom row of this stencil. So I checked how many flowers actually fit in there. And then I used pieces of painter's tape to cover the next, or maybe a pair of the next flowers that I'm not going to need. Now I'm just going to position the flower stencil on top of the cardstock piece, and I will line up the bottoms of the flowers with the line that I have sketched. I'm going to start with the yellow ink color, with the lightest one of the two, and I'll use my small stenciling brush to add ink to the flowers without moving the stencil, or at least trying my best not to move it. I'm going to add ink to the leaves and the stems. That's the result. Very cute. You can either erase the line, or you can leave it there, because anyway it will be covered by the pocket. That's why we drew the line lower than we want our pocket to be. We are ready to add the glue to the back of the pocket, and if you really intend to use it as a pocket, don't add any glue along the top edge so that you can slide something inside the pocket. Now I'm going to make sure that I center it, or try my best in centering it, just like that. If you don't use the sewing machine, you will apply the glue to the back of this pocket and glue the pocket down on top, and then continue with embellishing the rest of the card using your die cut sun and the clouds. And if you do intend to sew, you will do it now. You will start sewing right here and sew along these edges and finish right in the corner here above the fabric. I have pulled the thread tails to the back of the paper and tied double knots. Now I'm going to cut off some of the excess thread and apply the glue or any other kind of adhesive that you're using for your project to the back of this paper layer. And now I can glue this layer down. That's how it looks. And you can slide the card inside the pocket. I don't have a gift card, so I'm using just a random card that I had. So we are ready to glue down our top pocket. And you can either apply the glue to the whole pocket, or if you want to put something small into this pocket as well, then of course you will have to apply the adhesive only on the sides and keep the top open. Let's line up the pockets. This is how it looks. Now we can add the rest of our elements, which are the sun and the sun center and one of the clouds that I'm going to glue behind the sun in there, and another cloud will be on top. Now we can add the accents using the gel pens, only if you want to, of course. Like that. I think that concludes our tutorial for today. You will be able to find the links to the Wonderland Crafts products that I used today in the description box down below, as well as on my blog. I hope you have a wonderful day and talk to you soon. Bye!